What's up, everybody? Welcome to the POVincent podcast here on the River's Edge Online Radio Network. I am your host, Vincent Didiano, giving you my point of view on movies. And I'd like to welcome everyone back to a new episode of the POVincent podcast. Appreciate every view that we get. So once again, guys, thank you for joining me in this episode. Doing things a little differently this week. Obviously, I am by myself this time. Once again, want to thank Sarani, who recently had to leave the show. Appreciate all the hard work she put in. She was really awesome to have on. And, of course, we'll have her back on as a guest in the future. So, Sarani, once again, miss you. We'll see you again sometime. And hopefully all her projects, her podcasts, and everything she's doing are going well. Another thing we're going to be doing differently is we're going to be doing the movie review up front instead of saving it for the end, because honestly, I figure, it's probably what you guys are here most for. But first, I'm going to tell you a little story, a little kind of movie-related story, which fits the theme of this podcast. And if this is your first time watching the POVincent podcast, hey, thank you for tuning in. This is a movie news, discussion, and movie review podcast. I hope you enjoy. This past week was my birthday. And for my birthday, I just had some friends over my place. Thank you to all my friends and family came to my party. It was a great time. Oh, so much fun. And because I am who I am, after a while, after we had consumed enough food, snacks, and alcoholic beverages, we were all laughing, having a good time. I decided, let's pop in a movie. Let's get all around the TV, watch a movie. And I brought down about 6 different films. I asked everybody, what movie you guys all want to watch, right? Because I wanted to gauge what everyone was feeling at the time. And so I had brought down such movies to pick from, such as Caddyshack and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But then I brought up, we also have The Princess Bride. And everybody was like, Princess Bride, Princess Bride. So nice little moment. What was really cool about watching The Princess Bride, it's always cool watching The Princess Bride, awesome film, is that I had a friend who I'm not going to name because I don't want them to get embarrassed, but they had never watched The Princess Bride before. Hard to believe, I know. I was pretty shocked myself, but then I was like, oh, wait, no, it's them. They're not as big a movie person as I am. But it was awesome watching The Princess Bride while also watching my friend watch it for the first time, seeing her reactions. Oh, gave away the gender there, but watching her reactions, her going oh and laughing and the whole deal. It was incredible. So, it's an experience and if anybody out there, you're a movie lover and you've watched the movie, a bunch of times, but then you have a friend or family member who've never seen that movie, you're watching it with them. Let me know in the comments section what movie that did you got to see those first reactions from another person. Let me know down in the comments section. I'd really like to hear from you guys. So tonight's movie review, I had 2 options to basically review tonight. I could either have gone to see Frozen 2, which of course is a big sequel. The first Frozen, holy crap, was that a major blockbuster. But I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so the only movie that made sense to go see tonight's review was A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So I grew up here. I live here, grew up and live here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the home of, America's favorite and most beloved neighbor, Mr. Fred Rogers. And, this movie's been coming for a while, filming, I remember this past year, filming here in Pittsburgh going on. And I was on my way to work, and the parking garage I usually use, it was blocked off because of the filming, so I had to use another parking garage. But, it's exciting, Mr. Rogers being up on the big screen, this retelling of a part of his life, and having Tom Hanks play him. I mean, come on, right? But anyway, so another little story before I get into the review. I don't want to stretch these things out here, but David Newell, who played Mr. McFeely, the postman in the actual Mr. Rogers show, he was at the theater I went to tonight. He was signing autographs, answering questions, taking pictures. It was great. Before the movie started, he came into the theater, was the theater owner, and was telling little stories about Mr. Rogers and the backstory on this movie, and all came together. So it was really nice. It was like this extra experience. Not only were we getting to see this, movie that's been very anticipated, very, very anticipated indeed, but we got to get somebody from the Mr. Rogers family come in and add that special little touch to it, and that was really nice. I seriously. I really enjoyed just having him there, and he like said speedy delivery like a dozen times. And every time, I don't give a damn. It was fucking awesome. Mr. Rogers there, he probably wouldn't like me using the F word, but Mr. Rogers, sweet man. All right, so let's get into this film. So, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood stars Tom Hanks as the iconic Mr. Rogers and Matthew Rhys as Lloyd Vogel, a journalist from Esquire magazine who, back in the late 90s, was assigned a piece to go profile Mr. Rogers. And he goes to travels to Pittsburgh to meet Mr. Rogers, and he has an experience he didn't intend to have, and he goes on this wonderful journey. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, let's just talk about Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. As we all know, Tom Hanks is an incredible actor. You know, he's been in such big movies as, of course, Philadelphia, which got him his first Oscar, Apollo 13. Those are probably his two biggest ones, I would say. And he's just become one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood. He's one of those guys, like, there's never any drama, never any controversy about him. And how does he play Mr. Rogers? I thought he played Mr. Rogers pretty well. He doesn't quite have, I'll say this about it, he doesn't quite have his voice. There's a few times where he's trying to mimic Mr. Rogers' voice. It doesn't quite come off that well. However, when in the portrayal of Mr. Rogers' personality, that's where things come through. The kindness, the attention. There's multiple times throughout the movie where you see that he gives people 100% attention at the annoyance of other people in the film, because when he's with you, you are what matters to him right then and there. And I think Tom Hanks portrayed that very well. I think he really did get that across. And it was just nice to see this, him, this kindly thing, but also kind of like a goofy guy. Like Mr. Rogers was a goofy guy, because he was a guy who was like, there's a scene in the movie where he's like using the Daniel Tiger puppet from the show, which from what I learned from the documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, which if you haven't seen that documentary, Mr. Rogers, go see it. It's really good. Daniel Tiger is Fred Rogers. That's his avatar in the show, if you kind of want to put it that way. So he was kind of a goofy guy in that sense, but everything he did was to try to make everyone feel valid. And that was the whole point of the Mr. Rogers show, was to let children know you have emotions. That's perfectly fine. You're human. Let me help you deal with those emotions, or, manage them in a healthy way. And that's what he's trying to do in this film for Lloyd Vogel, once again played by Matthew Rhys. And let's get into the character of Lloyd Vogel. He's a writer for Esquire magazine, as I said earlier, and he's a very cynical man, incredibly cynical, to the point where you might not like him a lot. He might be a little standoffish. He doesn't try to be. He tries to be a nice guy. He's a journalist. He wants to get to the bottom of it. He really wants to dissect, the story and people and put it out there, even if it's something they don't want to hear about themselves. So yeah, he can be very harsh at times with his writing as the film presents it. And the reason for this is because, as we learn pretty early on in the film, that he has a very poor relationship with his father. Him and his father have been estranged for a long time, and at first the film does not give away what happened, but we start to get more and more little bits here and there, and we find out that because of his past with his father, Lloyd has never properly processed his emotions from when he was younger, and this is where Mr. Rogers comes in. He sees that in Lloyd. He sees this guy's got something bubbling up inside him that's holding him back from being the best person that he can be, and Mr. Rogers, wants to help him out. And the interesting thing about this movie, the movie's called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Tom Hanks, starring as Mr. Rogers, is obviously the draw, and more people obviously know about Mr. Rogers than Lloyd Vogel. But the thing is, the movie really is about Lloyd. Mr. Rogers is, part of the main cast, the main cast of characters, but the movie really is about Lloyd. We're on the journey with him. Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers is more of a supporting character, but the most supporting character. If this were to go to the Oscars, Matthew Rhys would probably be, should they get nominations, Matthew Rhys would be nominated for Best Actor, and Tom Hanks would be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Not saying they're going to get nominated. We'll get into that later. Not saying they won't be nominated. But I thought Matthew Rhys did a really did this part well. You can tell multiple times that Mr. Rogers is trying to get him to open up, to talk about his dad, to open up all this stuff. However, he just keeps trying to deflect because he's trying to interview Mr. Rogers, right? And Mr. Rogers is kind of trying to interview him back in a way, kind of like psychoanalyze him in his own Rogery way. But yeah, so there's genuine performances by both these men. I really enjoyed it. We also have other actors in the movie like Chris Cooper, who plays Jerry Vogel, Lloyd's father. Chris Cooper is, the great actor. First thing I remember ever seeing him was a movie called October Sky, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Very early in Jake Gyllenhaal's career. I think he did the movie right after Donnie Darko, or right after, right before. I can't quite remember. You also have Susan Kelechi Watson, who plays Andrea Vogel, Lloyd's wife, who has to deal with Lloyd. She loves this guy. She loves him so much. But when his father starts to come back into the picture, his anger and his sadness starts to boil up, and it causes him to become, very intolerable at times. And, lots of good stuff. Lots of good performances in here. One of the things that's really cool about this film is the way they transition in between scenes. I almost don't want to give it away. It's not like a huge spoiler or anything, but the way they transition, 'cause it's not in the trailer, so that's what I mean by that. It's not like a huge spoiler, but the way they transition through scenes, one scene to another, is through the style of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I don't want to give it away, but it's a really little nice, charming way to transition in the movie, and it seriously, it adds a lot of charm to it. It makes you, kind of like warm inside if you were, grew up watching Mr. Rogers and all that stuff. Very nice, very nice. Also, nice lighting in this film. There's definitely good moments where things are nice and bright, but things are just like a little shadier, a little like, we're trying to have a little intimate scene, or there's enough like shadowing here and there to like, it. So that I enjoyed a lot too. One thing I found weird, which once again, I'm not going to say why. I'm not going to say what it is, because it definitely would be a spoiler. There's definitely a moment in this movie where they're getting, cinematically artistic, I'll say, and I totally see what's going on. I understand what like the symbolism, or I don't know. I feel like the better word to use there, but it gets a little weird. It gets a tiny bit weird. I almost laughed because it was just kind of like this kind of goofy moment, but it ended on a tender note. So yeah, it's definitely got a movie. Like, I think some people might laugh at it. I see what they were going for there, but it's a little weird. Other people might appreciate it more. And for the artistic touch they're trying to put on during that scene. The movie. Another thing I appreciate about this film, because usually because once again, the movie is more about Lloyd, which I like. I think he's an interesting character to follow. He's the kind of person that Mr. Rogers, was always looking out for as a person. It's about Lloyd, which is great. Also, when you hear a movie, they're making a Mr. Rogers biopic movie. Holy crap! Most of these biopic movies are trying to like encapsulate like either the celebrity's entire life, or like, the several decades of their adulthood or whatever. Like, instance would be called Rocket Man, the Elton John movie that came out earlier this year, or Bohemian Rhapsody before that. A lot of like the musician films do this. But this movie is just about a week or two in the life of Mr. Rogers and Lloyd Vogel. It's not this big thing that's going on for years and years. And I really appreciate that because they're able to focus just on that one part of this, the lifelong story of this man and this person he interacted with and wanted to help out, and I think and that's nice, and it helps with the fact because once again Lloyd is the main character, so it's not really about Mr. Rogers. It's about the story of and it's focused there. So because we hear a Mr. Rogers movie, it's like, oh, they're gonna start back and how he came up with the show and all that. No, it's this focused moment in this bit of history, and that I liked. That I thought went really well. So let's get to it. Do I recommend A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? So like I said, I really enjoyed Tom Hanks. I don't think his I don't want to say impression, his performance as Mr. Rogers was quite spot on. What he got spot on was the kindness and the intention and the focus that Mr. Rogers would give people. His voice and kind of like certain little, he got some mannerisms, but not all of them. Matthew Rhys is really good in this film. I thought he did well. There was that weird part in the movie where we're getting artistic, but I was like, this is weird. And then another part where it's like, oh, this artistic touch with the transitions. This is nice and charming. I like this. So I will give A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood a recommendation. I do recommend it. So go out, check it. I think everybody will get a little something out of this film. Not a perfect film, not as good as I was hoping, but it was nice ride into this story. And I got a kick out of it. And if you're from Pittsburgh, like me, I think you'll get even more of a kick out of it. It's kind of hard. Once again, I could have reviewed Frozen 2, but it was like, Mr. Rogers movie. Come on, I gotta go see the Mr. Rogers movie. Oh, man. Oh. Well, anyway. So that is my review of Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now it's time to move on to some of our one of our discussion topics of the week. And I didn't intend for this, because Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers movie is like, this beautiful tale of, kindness and, compassion and all that stuff. But now I'm going to talk about something that really angered me. This past week, the trailer for the new Invisible Man movie dropped, starring Elizabeth Moss, who most people will know from Mad Men and The Handmaid's Tale. But I'm not really going to talk about the trailer. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the trailer to get to the subject that I want to talk about, because something has got me very, very fired up. And we're going to get into it. So quick rundown of the trailer before we get into the main topic here. So the movie stars Elizabeth Moss, and she's in an abusive, extremely, extremely abusive relationship with this man, and she's able to escape her abusive boyfriend with some help from a friend. After she escapes him, she learns soon after that he apparently committed suicide. And in his will, he left her $5 million, which she will inherit as long as she can prove that she is mentally stable, which, she appears to be. But as the trailer goes on, Elizabeth's character starts to realize that she feels like she's not alone in her own home, and weird things start happening around her. And as the trailer goes on, it's made clear that the abusive boyfriend is not dead. He's actually somehow faked his death and made himself invisible, and he is terrorizing her in the pursuit to make everyone think she is crazy, so she won't inherit the $5 million and possibly be committed to some kind of psych ward. And everyone around her is kind of like, holy crap, what's happened to her? She's, So that's the basic rundown of the trailer. That's basically what happens. I was on Twitter, and a friend posted this article from comicbookresource.com, a website that I go to quite often. I follow for news, mostly about superhero and comic book stuff. Justice League, Marvel, whatever, Hellboy, whatever's coming up. And every once in a while I find, usually what I don't like about the site is like every once in a while they have one of those articles like what this celebrity could look at as this superhero. And, there's some kind of fan art of like Zac Efron as Nightwing, for instance, when I was like, do we need to make a whole article about this? I could just picture Zac Efron, picture Nightwing, slap them together. I got it. But this particular article is about the Invisible Woman trailer that I want to go over. And I read it, and I was just furious after reading it. This article is full of bullshit. So we're going to go down this article and go over it. So the writer of this article, whose name is Ronaldo Matadine, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because I'm about to crap all over this guy. And I've never done like a discussion part like this where I'm kind of countering somebody, a rebuttal you could call it. So this is a new territory for me. So let's get into this. So he brings up the controversy that was around the Joker film recently. And once again, I really enjoyed the Joker movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. I don't believe any of the controversy that the movie was going to inspire violence. And as far as I know, no violence has happened in response to this. No, except for a video where someone is dressed up as Joker and they smash on their skateboard and hit themselves in the nuts. Besides that, that's the only violence I'm aware of. As I said before a couple months ago, the only people that I give any sympathy to were the families of the Aurora shooting victims, as I can understand how their perspective is. But beyond them, I'm just like, no, this movie is not going to inspire people to like go on shooting rampages. But anyway, Ronaldo writes in this article after he reiterates the controversy that happened on the Joker movie. However, while the pitchforks come out for that movie even before it premiered, one upcoming film is already proving to be more toxic and dangerous if its first trailer is any indication, Universal's The Invisible Man reboot. Now, keep in mind, at the time when I read this article, I'd already seen the trailer. So when I read that, I'm like, how is this trailer presenting this movie that's already more toxic and dangerous? And here's the thing, he even admits that people were getting pissy about Joker before it came out, and now he's getting pissy about this movie before. Can we, listen, trailers are advertisements. If you're going to judge a movie, let's watch the movie first. Because if Joker was crap and it was inciting violence, I would have called it out on it. But you got to wait till you watch the movie, so anyway. Let's continue. So anyway, Ronaldo continues in the article saying, that's after talking about the trailer, that's pretty messed up, not to mention misogynistic for a couple reasons. This is a movie about controlling a woman and gaslighting her to the point where she thinks she's insane. It is very tone deaf given the male-dominated and at times chauvinistic society we live in, where some men do seem to think they have ownership over women's bodies. And he goes on to bring up the business and entertainment industry, how they take advantage of women, which I don't agree with. Sex sells, and the entertainment industry has taken advantage of women at time. And then he goes on, so why should a man like Adrian, the abusive boyfriend, and Cecilia, Elizabeth Moss's character, why should Adrian own Cecilia's mind? It's another distasteful plot of a man wanting to have power over an innocent woman. So let's get into this. Once again, I saw the trailer, and I urge everyone to watch the trailer too. Especially, since we're talking about the subject, I urge you to watch the trailer so you can come up with your own judgments and read the article. Which every article that every news or discussion we have, I post a link to it on the POVincent Facebook and Twitter, so you can find it there. Here's the thing. There are men in this world that are misogynistic. They act like they own women, and they're a lot of times abusers, and it is unfortunate. I have friends who've been through that shit, and I want to fucking take these guys' heads off. But I think Ronaldo is missing the point of what the movie's trying to get across. It's just like the people who are having controversy, who said there was controversy over the Joker film, saying the Joker is pro-right-wing, the Joker movie is pro-incels and all this stuff. And but it wasn't. The Joker, they made it very clear from the early part of the film that Arthur Fleck, a.k.a. the Joker, was already a disturbed man who was trying to be a good person, but the society just kept giving him reasons not to be. And this trailer I don't see how he thinks the trailer seems to be promoting the character of Adrian, a.k.a. the Invisible Man. He seems to think that the movie is giving people like that a voice, giving some value to their words or their mindset. So it's you realize the guy is the bad guy in the film, right? You realize that's what's going on here. He's not. He's supposed to be. You're supposed to be disgusted by his actions terrorizing this woman. He seems to be missing that. Anyway, so let's go on. I'll read some more parts of the article. We're not going to go over the whole article, just pieces here and there. Not to mention Cecilia having to fight being deemed crazy by the authorities in order to pocket the inheritance means she's basically selling her mind and safety for the sake of a bank account. That's a very toxic spin, and it's anti-feminist because men shouldn't be looking at women like possessions in this manner. Yeah, no fucking dumb men should be looking like... never look at a woman like she's your possession, all right? If you're with somebody, you love them, you're in a relationship, you respect them, you treat them, you treat that woman like a queen, or the opposite. If you're with a man or whatever gender, sexual identity, sexual orientation, whatever identity your partner is, you treat them like they're fucking royalty. And in return, they should treat you the same way. But it's just, once again, he seems to not understand that the movie is not promoting men like this. He's the monster of the film. Keep in mind that this was supposed to be a very different film, that it was supposed to be part of the dark universe that was being built up. The movie with Tom Hanks, The Mummy, which was bombed, and they had a whole slate of these other monster movies they were playing. The Invisible Man was one of the films. Things got changed after The Mummy bombed, and they're pretty much, I think they've, as far as I know, they've given up on the Dark Universe as a connected monster movie universe. So it's like, so once again, the Invisible Man is a monster. He is part of the list of Universal's classic movie monsters. Right, there was Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, creature from the Black Lagoon. He's not a hero. He's not a protagonist, which was another problem that people seemed to get confused when it came to the Joker. The Joker, aka Arthur Fleck, was the protagonist of his film. But people seem to confuse protagonist with hero. A hero and a protagonist aren't always the same thing. The protagonist of any story is just the lead character that we are following on their journey. We're following them as they go through this journey. That's the protagonist. The protagonist doesn't always have to be a hero. Other examples would be Kill Bill, Beatrix Kiddo, a.k.a. The Bride. I love the first Kill Bill movie. I even like the second one. I love them both. But here's the thing. Beatrix Kiddo isn't a hero. Remember, they established in those movies that she was one of the top international assassins. She loves killing people. She loves getting paid to kill people. She's not a hero, but she is our protagonist. Being a protagonist, being a hero aren't the same thing. And he just seems to be confusing these two, and it just infuriates me. And saying that the movie's anti-feminist, I mean, I usually don't get into this subject, but the movie, things like this happen in real life, ladies and gentlemen. Women get caught in abusive relationships with men. And I'm not talking shit. I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit on men, because I am one, but I acknowledge that there's horrible pieces of shit out there. And that's what some of these abusers do. They gaslight, as he mentions, uses the words, they gaslight. They're like, I didn't hit her. I never touched her. She's talking crazy. She's got emotional problems. She's taking some medication. They make up bullshit to make everyone think that the woman is crazy and that he's actually a nice guy. Stuff like this happens. That's what this movie's about. But instead of him talking to people and convincing them with his charm and wit that he's actually a nice guy and she's the one's crazy, we're using fantastical storytelling where he's invisible and making her look like she. It's just. Ronaldo, what are you talking about, man? This is just this fucking bullshit. It is bullshit. Anyway, I'll read this last few parts here. Okay, towards the end of the article, he says, that said, the concept of the Invisible Man has always been problematic, most notably in the movie Hollow Man from 2000, starring Kevin Bacon. I remember that film. The character stalked victims, even committing sexual assault. So why should a man who wants to subjugate a woman and make her his mental slave not be treated with the same disdain in this day and age's more politically correct times? Who's saying we're not treating this guy with disdain? I mean, the few moments in the trailer where we see him when he's not invisible, he act like a raging fucking bull, like, come back to me, like, where are you going? Like, did you watch the same trailer? Or did somebody give you some weird edit of it? It's just, he's not put in the best lights, ironically, but you can't, light doesn't shine. Anyway, he's the bad guy. No one is making this guy out to be like he's misunderstood or whatever. It's just like, I'm so fucking confused and irritated by this article. It's just like, are journalists nowadays really that hungry for drama that they're just going to make up something? It's like, he's totally misrepresenting this trailer. It pisses me off. It really does. Anyway, last thing from his article that I'll point out is that Universal's not just being disrespectful to the female gender, but to those who struggle with mental health on the whole. Well, now we're bringing the mental health, like, dude, you're full of shit, okay? Here's the thing. I don't know if I'm done with comicbookresearch.com, but if I'm in an article and I see it's written by Ronaldo Matadine, I ain't gonna read that fucking article. So if you see Ronaldo Matadine, if you see one of his articles on Comic Book Resource or any other website, I'm not sure if he works for, if he's freelances or whatever, but this guy's full of shit. I just don't know how else to put it. This is total bullcrap. It's like he's totally ignoring reality here. I see it's just for obviously a clickbait article, obviously, right? But it is so pathetic. It is so pathetic. It infuriated me. Oh God. Anyway, let's get on to some better news. All right, let's get that. got a little thirsty, pointing out why somebody's full of it. Yeah, take a little drink there. All right. Anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to some other news. Let's talk about Nic Cage. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Nic Cage. So, in recent years, Nic Cage has become, you either love him, you think he's or you think he's a joke. That's kind of where he's fallen in. It's been known for a while now that due to him owing tons of back taxes, just millions of dollars a movie, Nic Cage has kind of fallen out of grace of Hollywood, and he basically takes whatever movie role he can. Usually a lot of straight to DVD or straight to streaming movies made on really low budgets, and a lot of them haven't been that great. He's had a few successes lately. He was Spider-Man Noir in the Spider-Verse movie. He was in a movie called Mandy, which I haven't seen, but I heard it's really good. And he was also in some other movie where he's him and Selma Blair are parents, and they go crazy and try to kill their kids. It's like a dark humor horror movie. So he's starting to work his way back up. But and this is so cool. I had to talk about it. It is so fucking good. On thehollywoodreporter.com, it is reported that get this, Cage could be back. Not that he was ever went away, in a big way, as he finds himself in the center of a hot deal for a project which he would play one of the most iconic characters in Hollywood, Nicolas Cage himself. That's right. Nicolas Cage looks like he's going to be a movie where he's going to play himself. He's going to play a character version of himself. And right off the bat, you got me, movie. I'm interested. You got my interest. But let's go down. So the article continues. If the deal closes, Cage would star as actor Nicolas Cage. The character is desperate to get a role in a new Quentin Tarantino movie. Ooh, Quentin Tarantino, good. So they're really bringing in the Hollywood stuff here. Movie while also dealing with a strained relationship with his teenage daughter. He also occasionally talks to an egotistical 1990s version of himself who rides him for making too many crappy movies and for not being a star anymore. So that's he's literally going to have an imaginary friend who's himself that berates him. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have Nic Cage shit talking Nic Cage. I love it. I love the idea. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I'm totally down for it. It's going to be like that scene in the Michael Keaton movie Birdman, where eventually like he sees like his younger self in his Birdman hero costume, like talking to him. Except it's going to be like, I'm guessing most of the movie. Oh my God. I can already see the memes now from Jojo Rabbit where they just have Nic Cage on Jojo's face and Nic Cage on Hitler's face. I can already see those memes coming right around the corner. But yeah, now they give more of the supposed plot of the film, but I don't want to give too much of it away there because there's some really funny, entertaining things in here. Once again, I post this stuff to our Facebook and Twitter, so please head over and check out the article. It's from The Hollywood Reporter. I think this is going to be a great, funny idea, and props to Nic Cage because his career has taken some serious hits in the past 10 years. He was riding high with National Treasure, but then that fell off, and the Ghost Rider movies didn't do well. But he started to work his way back. God, and it's got to be frustrating the way his career's gone at points. I mean, most definitely. So props to him for having, humor about himself and being able to like really make fun of himself on such a massive level. I mean, this is just, it's going to be crazy Birdman. That's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be meta crazy Birdman. But yeah, so I want to talk more about that. I'm reading the parts of this. Oh God, I want to go over with you guys, but I feel like I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'll say this: I'm going to read some of the more of the plot details that we have from this article. And if you don't want to hear the rest of the plot details, check out now. Just check out right now. Here we go. So the Cage character is also under a mountain of debt and finds himself forced to make an appearance at a birthday party of a Mexican billionaire who happens to be a fan of the actor's work and secretly hopes to show him a script on which he's been working. And I've heard that stuff happens all the time in Hollywood where fans meet actors and they want to show them like something they've been working on. Like, tell me what you think. Oh, look, I wrote it for you. Or like, so it's definitely going to be interesting. The article goes on to say, while he bonds with the man, Cage is informed by the CIA that the billionaire is actually a drug cartel kingpin who has kidnapped the daughter of a Mexican presidential nominee, and Cage is subsequently recruited by the U.S. government to get intelligence. The situation spirals even more dramatically when the billionaire brings over Cage's daughter and his ex-wife for a reconciliation, and when their lives are on the line, Cage takes on the role of a lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me you don't want to see that. Tell me that doesn't sound fucking hilarious, most likely action-packed. I mean, come on. Nick Cage is, oh my God, imagine how Nic Cage is going to get in this film. He's going to go beyond Cage. He's going to go fucking like Nic Cage Super Saiyan in this film. I can already see it, ladies and gentlemen. It's fucking beautiful. It really is. Oh, it's going to be great, people. It's going to be great. I hope this movie doesn't get canceled or anything, or like it gets caught up in production and it's like takes 3, 4, 5 years for it to come out. I hope we see this movie come out in the next 2 years. Oh, God, I can't wait. It just sounds like it's too much fun. How can you not get behind that? How can you not get behind that? All right. So, Nic Cage, can't wait to see this movie. Oh, my God, this sounds so much fun to me. So much fun. All right. Anyway, so let's move on to another topic, something that's been definitely getting a lot of attention this week, the Charlie's Angels movie. So recently we had a reboot of the franchise, the new Charlie's Angels movie with Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Elizabeth Banks, who stars, writes, and directs this film. Now, Elizabeth Banks has come under some heat recently because of an interview she gave. And I want to point this out, that there's a misconception about this interview. If you already heard about it, I just want to clear this up. She gave this interview before the movie came out. All right? I want to make that clear. She gave this interview before the movie came out, not after the movie came out. Because the movie has unfortunately bombed. It did very poorly at the box office its opening weekend, only gaining, from last time I heard, $8 to $9 million, which to any average Joe, $8 to $9 million, holy crap, that sounds great to me. But for a movie, no, unless it's a very, very low budget film, like I don't know, like a Pure Flix film. That's a horrible opening weekend. Horrible opening weekend. And she gave now this is from an article on Yahoo.com. She gave the interview talking about the movie, and she may have pissed off a few people. During the interview, they brought up other, female-led action movies such as, Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, things like that. And she talked about what the film needs to be successful. So let's just get it. I'm just going to read the comments. Okay, so anyway, Elizabeth Banks, once again, stars, directs, and wrote the film, says, look, people have to buy tickets to this movie, too. This movie has to make money. If this movie doesn't make money, it reinforces a stereotype in Hollywood that men... Ooh, excuse me. Being a little burp there, I guess being manly, I guess. I don't know. A stereotype in Hollywood that men don't go see women do action movies. Now, this part of the statement is completely fair. I mean, obviously, no duh, a movie has to make money to be successful. And there is a stereotype in Hollywood that men aren't interested in female-led action movies. And it's true. That is a real stereotype in Hollywood. I mean, think about, Wonder Woman. How many Batman and Superman movies did we have before we finally had a Wonder Woman movie? Meanwhile, Wonder Woman is one of the most famous superheroes on the planet. She is part of the DC Trinity of Wonder Woman's Batman and Superman. This is true. And, there were talks in Hollywood for a Wonder Woman movie for years, but it kept on getting pushed aside because most studios didn't think people wanted to see a Wonder Woman movie because it was a female-led action movie. They thought it was too much of a gamble. Hell, Marvel, with all its success, we really only had its first female-led movie with Captain Marvel. Meanwhile, people were asking for a Black Widow movie for long before Captain Marvel came out. We're now going to get a Black Widow movie, which I think is maybe not the best time for it, but whatever. But yeah, so that is a stereotype in Hollywood. So I totally agree with her on that. There's nothing wrong. Now, as the interview goes on, we start to talk about other female-led action movies such as Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel. Banks goes on to say, says that the female-fronted comic book films are still tied to a large male genre. Meaning, what she's basically trying to say is, great that those movies were successful and all that stuff. That's nice, and they had female leads, but it's appealing to the to the male demographic. She's saying that for this to be really work, it has to appeal to the women demographic. I feel like that's what she's trying to say, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And Miss Banks, I've never met you, but I've seen you in plenty of films. You're a very talented actress. Credit to you. But comic books and movies, that's a very male-led thing. I don't disagree with you there, but it's just like, it still feels like a little disrespectful that you're not giving these movies credit, because once again, nobody thought a Wonder Woman movie was going to be successful, and it is one of the biggest successes of the recent DC franchise, the DCEU. In fact, it pretty much kept the DCEU on life support until we were able to get to Aquaman and Shazam. So, I don't know. That sounds kind of goofy to me, but... Anyway, she goes on to say, they'll go and see a comic book movie with Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel because that's a male genre. So even though those are movies about women, they put them in the context of feeding the larger comic book world. So it's all about, yes, you're watching a Wonder Woman movie, but we're setting up 3 other characters, or we're setting up Justice League. Okay, well, that's not really a problem of... that was a Warner Brothers problem. I think it's pretty clear at this point that Warner Brothers really screwed up when it came to the DCEU. You had Man of Steel, which came out to mixed reviews. As I've said before, I think it's okay. Batman v Superman, holy crap, did that cause a lot of controversy. I mean, people were, like back and forth. It's a great movie, it's a horror movie. It's a great movie, it's a horrible movie. And then the Suicide Squad was the reshoots where the movie was finally edited by a trailer house, which not saying there's not talent in making a good trailer, but there's a difference between a 2.5-minute trailer and a 2-hour film. There's a pacing, editing, so much. And that's more of a problem with the way Warner Brothers approached it. They were trying to set up 3, 4, 5, 8 films while they were only 2 films deep. That was more of a Warner Brothers issue. So I get what she's saying. She wants to make female-led movies that, women can love. But here's the thing. The action movie genre, whether, it's a male lead or a female lead, it's always been mostly interested by men. And I'm not saying women can't love action film. I have plenty of friends who love Kanuchi, my Twitch gaming friend. She's she loves action movies. She loves horror movies. She loves all that kind of stuff. But you can't ignore the fact that it's still a dominantly male genre, over time, I hope, more and more women get more into action movies. Like I said, we got plenty right now, but it's still a more male genre. But you just got to kind of deal with certain realities, It almost seems like she's trying to set up, once again, this interview happened before the movie came out. A lot of people are thinking that the interview happened after the movie came out, and she's making excuses for why the movie flopped. But since it came up, the interview happened before the movie, it makes like she's setting up excuses already why the movie might flop. Because there were predictions the week before the movie came out that it wasn't going to do well. And no offense, but I wasn't expecting this movie to... I haven't seen Charlie's Angels, so I have no opinion on whether it's good, bad, okay, whatever. For all I know, most of the critics could be full of crap, and this movie could be great. I can't judge it. But I will say this. This movie had multiple factors going against it. The trailer wasn't really that great. It wasn't horrible, but it was fine. The movie really didn't have enough star power. Elizabeth Banks has been in a ton of films. She's a noted actress. And like I said, I think she's a good one, but she's not so huge that she can draw a crowd. I don't think her status has risen to that, Also, because on to her, you got Patrick Stewart in the movie, who, a lot of people love Patrick Stewart. I love Patrick Stewart, but the trailer makes it pretty clear that he's briefly in the movie. I think both trailers show that he's very briefly in the film, so he's not a big player. Maybe if he had a more dominant role, his star power could have brought on some more people. But after that, you have Kristen Stewart, who most people still remember her from the Twilight films, and probably still some people remember her for the cheating controversy between her and Robert Pattinson, which is, as far as I know, the two of them are in a good place. That is completely in the past. There's no bad vibes between them anymore. And she's been trying to rebuild her career for the past several years, doing a lot of indie films. And I've started seeing more and more trailers of her coming up in feature films that are going to be released, nationwide. So she's kind of rebuilding her career. And I know a lot of people hate Kristen Stewart. I don't think she's a bad actress. I think she's a good actress. I don't, I think she just gets a lot of hate because of Twilight. I'm not saying she's my favorite actress or anything, but I think people need to lay off her. And the only other like notable name in the movie is Naomi Scott, who she played Princess Jasmine in the Aladdin live action remake recently, but that was kind of it. That's really all she's known for. She was also the big Power Ranger in the Power Ranger movie, but that movie just kind of like people mostly forgotten about it, except for Power Ranger fan base, of course, and the other people. But yeah, she's really only known for Aladdin, and as well as Aladdin did, it got some mixed reviews here or there. I liked it. Wasn't great, but I liked it. Could have been better. It could have been better. But yeah, so it's missing star power. It didn't have a good advertisement about it with the trailer or the commercials. And here's a big one. Here's a big thing of what really crippled this movie, and it doesn't surprise me that it did poorly at the box office. It was up against Ford versus Ferrari, which had everything in the positive that this movie didn't. It had a great trailer. It had serious star power with Matt Damon and Christian Bale. It had a David versus Goliath story. It had based on a true story of a story here in America going up against Ferrari. This Ford versus and once again, I reviewed that movie last week. Great movie. I think it's awesome. I recommended that people go see it. It just was the bigger draw. The movie is Charlie's Angels, because of its lack of star power, its poor advertising, and the fact that it's come out the same weekend as a much more appealing film that would draw people in. It was the underdog the whole time. And unfortunately, unlike Rudy, it didn't shine. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth of the matter. That's how things went down. Once again, I haven't seen Charlie's Angels. I could be really good. I don't know. All I can say is it was always I always had his back against the wall. Anyway, so once again, I'm going to take a little sip. So let's get on to our final point of discussion tonight. Something we were talking about earlier in regards to one of our other stories. Let's talk about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So the Joker movie has recently passed the $1 billion mark. It is a $1 billion movie. Congratulations to Todd Phillips, the director of the film. Congratulations to Joaquin Phoenix on the role. Once again, great fucking movie. Great movie. Don't believe the controversy behind it. It's nothing. It's the controversies of the movie. Holy crap, it's so good. Now there's been talks. People have been talking like, oh my God, are they going to make a sequel? Oh, should they make a sequel? I mean, this is technically supposed to be a standalone film, but oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix even as the Joker again. Imagine what they could do. Oh my God. So that has been talked about. And without surprise, it's a very successful film, making a ton of money, as I just said. So is there going to be a sequel? Well, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the answer is yes or no. We'll get into that. So the Hollywood Reporter, the article says, on October 7th, Joker director Todd Phillips headed into Warner Brothers Pictures Group Chairman Toby Emmerich's office, buoyed by the film's $96.2 million opening weekend haul. Holy crap, that's a lot of movie. Sources tell the Hollywood Reporter he proposed an outsized idea, the rights to develop a portfolio of DC characters' origin stories. So according to the Hollywood Reporter, Todd Phillips was interested in doing other movies giving the origin stories of other characters, and that's really exciting news. The article goes on, but Phillips did emerge from the meeting with the rights to at least one other DC story, sources say. And now that Joker has crossed the $1 billion mark, a sequel is on the way. As a movie keeps raking in money overseas, Phillips is in talk to reprise his role as director for a second Joker outing. And he and Scott Silver, who penned the gritty Joker screenplay, will write the follow-up. So, holy crap. So if you love this movie, this could be very exciting news for you. We're going to get another movie, Joaquin Phoenix back in his portrayal of the Arthur Fleck Joker. See more and more where this could go. Here's the problem. According to Deadline.com, that's not at all what's going on. So this is really interesting. I've never done one website countering another website. You're talking here on the show. But anyway, according to Deadline.com, the Joker sequel news that hit a trade today is great clickbait. At this point, there are no deals for a sequel, not even any negotiations with director Todd Phillips or his co-writer Scott Silver to craft one. These sources add, for Deadline, these sources add that the linchpin of today's Hollywood Reporter story, that a week after Joker's opening, that Phillips met with Warner Brothers film chief Toby Emmerich to pitch a portfolio of DC character origin stories. As that is false as earlier story, he says, sorry, misspoke there. There we go again. Is as flat false as earlier stories that Martin Scorsese contemplated directing the first Joker. Scorsese was originally going to be a producer, but dropped out because of his crowded schedule. What director Todd Phillips has talked about in interviews is that when Joker was in its inception, there were discussions of a DC Black initiative. He instead focused on Joker. So basically what Deadline.com is saying, what really happened was, yeah, there were discussions of doing other DC movies, but Todd Phillips decided just to take Joker and focus on that. So this is really interesting. Now, obviously, the Deadline.com article states that obviously that there's interest in a sequel. The studio would be stupid of them not to, think about it, look into it, because the movie has gotten great reviews. It's made so much money, all that stuff. So, but it's saying that the Hollywood Reporter is flat out lying. So either the Hollywood Reporter, the source that they had, is messing with them, or the Hollywood Reporter is blatantly lying. So this is not good. I don't know what further information has come out yet, but it's not making the Hollywood Reporter look all that great, to be honest. Deadline.com, holy crap, they just went for it. Like, nope, you guys are lying. Now, I don't know yet whether or not who's lying or who's not. I think it'd be early. I think we're still kind of early for the green lighting of a movie like that. Here's the thing. Come award season, because a lot of people are saying that Joker is going to get a ton of Academy Award, Golden Globe, all the nominations, all the award shows. If Joker wins some awards, I could definitely see him being like, all right, let's greenlit a sequel. But I also got to say, I'm not sure if doing a sequel is a good idea, because this movie is perfectly done as a standalone film. It doesn't seem like it's designed to get a sequel. And honestly, I'm not sure if I'd want to see a sequel. Oh, here's the thing. Let me rephrase that. I'm not sure if I want there to be a sequel. Obviously, if they make a sequel, I will go see it and I will go review it. But it's one of those movies like, let's leave it a B. Come on, DC. You tried, just focus on the Robert Pattinson Batman movies that are coming up. Just leave this movie alone. It was so good that I don't know. It just feels weird to do a sequel. It is fantastic as it is, and I just don't think we should get into it. I don't know. Like I said, I'll go see if they make a sequel, but sometimes you've done something good and just cherish it. Just cherish it. Oh, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the POVincent podcast this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please, wherever you're listening to, whether it's on the River's Edge stream, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, wherever, please like, follow, subscribe, wherever you are, to catch new episodes in the future. Want to thank the River's Edge Online Radio Network for hosting this show, as always. Thank you so much. Without them, this would not be possible. And just want to thank everyone who tunes in for the show and leaves a comment. Greatly appreciate it. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you once again for viewing things through my perspective. Take it easy.